In the past trainings, we have talked about helping and encouraging our students to ask questions in class. In doing so, it is best that we show compassion to them. In order for us to understand them, it is important that we listen to their questions carefully and help them fortify their faith amidst their doubts and confusion. In helping them find the answer to their questions, the following skills are necessary. First, identify limited or worldly assumptions about a question or concern. Identify and analyze the eternal premises and doctrine at the foundation of the issue. And third, identify the true conclusion or rephrase the original question in a way that reflects the eternal truths discussed. Instead of answering our students' questions directly, it is best that we guide them find the answers to their questions and help them become spiritually self-reliant. The purpose of this micro training is to learn the skills in helping our students locate appropriate sources and practice the skill of seeking further understanding through divinely appointed sources when addressing gospel questions or concerns. The following video shows how a student find the answer to a question about church history and doctrine. List down the things the student, her parents, and teacher did in helping her find the answer to her question. Look for ways to apply these principles in answering your student's question.
My name is Madison. I'm 18 and I'm a senior in high school. And when I was a sophomore, I had a question concerning Joseph Smith and polygamy in seminary, and I asked that question here. When the question of Joseph Smith and polygamy came to my mind and I was unsure of what the answer was, I was really confused. I was really scared that if I asked, people would think, oh, she doesn't have a testimony because she's asking this question. I was really scared at first. Hi, Brother White. So we were in class, and we were talking about Joseph Smith, and the question of polygamy came up, and I was really upset about it. Brother White remembers.
I don't even know if you raised your hand. I think you just blurted out, what? Are you sure? Like, he really did?
I think it was pretty clear to the whole seminary class that I was upset because I kept asking a million questions, just hoping that Brother White could have an answer right then.
Once the class was over, Maddie and I were able to talk. And that's where, I invited her at this point that she had a little bit of a journey that she needed to go through, but it was important that she included prayer in the process, that she kept doing what she was used to doing. She kept living the gospel, kept acting in faith.
Brother White invited me to act by just being loving and supportive, I think. And I knew that Brother White didn't think I was doubting my faith by asking a question, so I felt really encouraged to ask. At the beginning, when I just first Googled it, I didn't even first go to LDS.org because I was like, oh, I want to see what these other people say. And it was really negative and really scary, and it made me even more like, oh no, what is this saying? Every night when I said my prayer and I read my scriptures, I was searching for something more, and I was letting the Spirit really touch my heart, and I was paying my full attention to prayer and scripture study. The first answer that I had was, if you don't understand now, you'll understand later. That was the first I had. I just didn't know when I would get that answer, whether it was in this life or the next life or years later.
I had one of the gospel essays regarding polygamy, a hard copy that I gave to her, invited her to study it, to pray about it.
Well, I hadn't even looked into the possibility that Joseph Smith was upset about this commandment, which is silly. So when I'm looking into this, context and reading about it, and I'm seeing oh, he was upset about this. This was just as hard for him as it was for the world to comprehend. That helped me a lot in how I was looking at the whole thing. I had to look back at the plan of salvation and remember my testimony on the plan of salvation and realize that everything God does is for that plan. I went and I talked to my parents right after I first had the question.
She reached out for at least some guidance. She talked to her seminary teachers. She talked to our bishop. She talked to us as her parents.
I asked my mom, I think the first time I asked was in the car, Of course, she tried to help. And then that's when she told me, you can ask your grandpa.
My dad is very studied as far as the scriptures go, and I knew that he would have references.
And I knew that my grandpa could help because he has served a lot in the church. And I knew that he would be willing to provide me with different sources. And he really just helped me a lot by just sitting down and talking with me. Thanks.
I don't think it's as a grandfather's responsibility or a parent's or priesthood leader to give all the answers. I think you need to be a guide to take them and point them towards their Father in heaven. The church has so many resources out there from the brethren who are so in tune in knowing what we need. And then she has other resources too of the books that are out there and the study. We have so much knowledge that we can refer to and have access to.
It was a super slow process of receiving my answer, which was surprising to me because you always see in videos or different things where someone is praying and then they all of a sudden have this revelation, and I was kind of expecting it to be that way. But it all came really slowly over a span of months. It was little things that led to the full understanding.
She, began to receive understanding little by little to the point when eventually you could see that Maddie received the understanding that she needed to move forward.
Now, whenever I have a question, I get excited to ask that question because I know that I'll get an answer, and I know it won't be easy, but I know that it's worth it.
In answering questions about doctrines, church history, and social issues that matters to our students, we can refer them to the following sources: LDS Scriptures, Gospel Topics, Gospel Essays, Church History Library, Church History Resources, Joseph Smith Papers, Revelation in Context. These resources can be accessed in the church official website. Using the principles that we have just learned, let us try to look for divinely appointed sources that might help a student gain further understanding if they have this question. If creation really happened, then the earth is only 6,000 years old. How do you explain fossils of dinosaurs that existed around 243 million years ago? Make sure to emphasize the role of prayer, scriptures, and the words of prophet from General Conference addresses as the most divinely appointed sources for seeking truth. Please share in our discussion board what you have found. Thank you, and I'll see you in our next micro training.